The need to control is an illusion of safety. When we feel like, oh, I'm in control, and you then feel safe, that is an illusion of safety. It's not actual safety. True safety is your ability to let go and trust.
Okay, today I have a spicy guest. She said some things that are controversial, and I liked it, I have to say. She has some edgy things to say about the masculine and the feminine and feminism in general. Breadwinning, money, receptiveness, surrender, trauma. We really covered a lot of territory. What I love about Monica is she and I have two very similar things in common that are unusual, which is that our paths in business started with, well, mine didn't, but like it was in there, love affairs with learning about the menstrual cycle and then moving into nervous system healing from that place. So she's the only other human I know who moved from periods to healing our nervous systems. And I'm so excited for you to meet her. She is delightful. She is unfiltered. She is super fun. She makes a shit ton of money as a young woman, and she's pregnant with her first. And I just absolutely loved getting to know Monica Yates. She has a brand new book called Becoming Her. She is the host of the top podcast, Feminine as Fuck. Enjoy, Monica. Welcome to Plenty. I'm your host, Kate Northrup, and together we are going on a journey to help you have an incredible relationship with money, time, and energy, and to have abundance on every possible level. Every week, we're going to dive in with experts and insights to help you unlock a life of plenty. Let's go fill our cups.
Please note that the opinions and perspectives of the guests on the Plenty podcast are not necessarily reflective of the opinions and perspectives of Kate Northrup or anyone who works within the Kate Northrup brand.
Welcome, Monica.
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks
I'm so
for
excited.
being here.
Yeah.
Well, I was saying that I'm so glad that you connected with me because as I was researching and getting to know you better for this episode, I knew of your podcast. However, I was like, it is uncanny how similar, at least on the surface, what we do is. And I'm so excited to dive into that because when other people have found their own way in totally different ways to very similar conclusions, for me, it solidifies and it validates that all my crazy ideas are true.
Yes.
I love that you too got here. Well, through a number of ways, but that one of those things was in falling in love with your menstrual cycle. Like that's not the usual path for most people. So can you tell me how you fell in love with your period?
Yes. I mean, I grew up hating being a woman. Like I really did. I had really bad conditioning and programming just around like men having it so much easier and everything being harder for women. And, I was always told women have the bad end of the stick. Next time I'm coming back as a man. And just, over time, obviously that makes you feel like inherently shit, basically. Oh, can I swear on this podcast?
Yes.
Okay. About being a woman. And so I grew up with a really bad period. Like my period would be so heavy, I would bleed through a maternity pad and tampons. Like I'd be wearing the tampon and the maternity pad at the same time. I was constantly in pain, like we're mostly female listeners, so it's going to be TMI, like huge blood clots, like not okay, right? And of course, also in Australia, you just go to the doctor and their solution is put you on the pill. Yeah. And, I grew up in a very healthy family. So it wasn't like my mum would just pass out pills to just fix everything. We had a natural approach, but she wasn't taught this stuff. So she didn't know any better. So we go to the doctor, we go to the GP because you don't really do gynos, like unless you have like a specific thing in Australia. We went to the GP and her solution is like go on the pill to fix this. I think a lot of women now know it doesn't fix anything. All it does is put a big fat Band-Aid on it. So long story short, I was on the pill and I was like, this is fabulous. I don't have a period, or I can control my period, all that kind of stuff. And also just like, yay, I'm not going to fall pregnant, blah, 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 all those things. And of course now I know actually I still could have fallen pregnant, right? Because you could still fall pregnant on the pill. And it's just, my whole thing is I am absolutely not anti-birth control. I am anti-true informed consent. right? And we are not given all the information as women. And so then I finished school and I was actually training to become a ski instructor in Whistler, and I stopped getting the breakthrough bleed altogether. And no, sorry, I started bleeding every 2 weeks. So then my doctor was like, oh, we'll just put you on a higher dose. I went on the highest dose, stopped getting my breakthrough bleed because it's not an actual period altogether. And I was then like, oh, I don't think this is 100% right. So then I came off the pill, and it took me 18 months to get my period back. I lost so much weight. I was premenopausal. Like if you saw me on the street, you would have fully thought I was anorexic. And I was eating more than my dad. I was skin and bones. I was eating so much food, wasn't able to digest any of it. So like I would go to the bathroom and, like zucchini noodles, they didn't get digested. Like they were there in the toilet.
Wow.
And what actually then got me just the period side of things to then really into feminine and masculine energy and trauma healing was because it wasn't the herbs. It wasn't a, certain diet that I was on. It wasn't like I had to slow down my exercise. I was doing everything right in terms of supplement, nutrition, all the things. And what got my period back was I started dating a guy that was super into the kind of feminine and masculine. And, I wasn't into the feminine and masculine at that point because I had all this wounding around being a feminine woman. Yeah. As many of us do. Long story short, he basically like forced me into my feminine in like a way that I deeply craved, but I also felt like, oh, this is so like naughty, But I'm like, oh my God, it's so hot at the same time. And he forced me kind of into my feminine 3 months, and it takes 90 days for your follicle to come around to then ovulate. And 3 months into dating him, I got my period back. And I even write about it in my book. I tried to like contact him even like years later once I'd done all this work on myself, because back then I was such a cold, hard bitch. Like I truly was. I was so masculine. I had this like dichotomy in me, right, where I deeply wanted to allow a man to lead me, but I felt like that was so wrong, even though I craved it. And, he would say when we started dating, like you started tasting different, and that's what got me into like, wait, there has to be some correlation between me dating this guy and then getting my period back. And that's when I really started diving into the research and pulling all of these different pieces together of how men influence women's hormones. Wow. And that was really then the start of everything back in like 2016. And then things really picked up in 2018, and now here we are.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my journey.
Amazing story.
Thank you.
Of course, it makes perfect sense to me that your hormones would shift through an experience of being able to finally let go and like receive and be in your feminine. And not to say that being in your feminine is exclusively surrendering and receiving and letting go. There's like many faces of the feminine, which we can talk about. But that's one of the biggest ones that many high achieving women crave is like, can I just put it down? And I'll never forget, I was dating a guy in New York, and I was taking classes at Mama Gina's School of Womanly Arts. Okay. And her
book was one of the first books I read on all of this. Pussy.
Amazing.
I remember I was on the beach at Byron Bay. I read that book and I was like, oh, like, wow.
Yeah.
And just like that, it was eye-opening, right? Anyway, sorry to cut you off.
She was
Continue.
here earlier today.
Oh my God. Of course she was.
Sitting in that seat.
She was.
Yeah. So I love that. So I was, really learning about the feminine and the masculine more. I grew up with some of this conversation, and I said to him, like, I wish, because I am such a leader. Like, I was born on the first day of the astrological new year. I am a total Aries. I love starting things. I am an excellent leader.
Okay.
And
fellow fire sign here, so I love it.
Amazing. When's your birthday?
December 11th.
Ooh,
Sagittarius.
Love it. Yes. So no problem with leading or taking charge, but I so craved the relaxation of knowing that someone else had it. Yeah. And I said to him, I just wish you would take the reins sometimes. And he was like, I would love to if you would just put them down.
Like if you would let him, right? Yeah.
He was like, you just have to put them down. I can't have the reins if you won't let go.
Yeah, right.
And that craving is so real.
Yeah.
Now, I find that this is changing, but modern day feminism, certainly the feminism of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
We stand on
Very
the shoulders
necessary.
of these women.
Yes.
And also a bit of a backlash or a shadow of it was this thing of like, I don't need a man, I will be a man.
Yes.
And it left us with this feeling of like, I'm smart, I'm successful. A man is not a financial plan. I'm doing it for myself, but also like, can someone open the door? But also I feel bad about the fact that I want someone else to open the door and make a dinner reservation and just like tell me what to do because I freaking love it when my husband tells me what to do.
Yes.
I'm like, thank God, just give me instructions.
Oh, when I get the text from Hal of like, this is the plan. It's like basically just all like even just flying here, it was like, you have to be ready at 5 o'clock, make sure XYZ is packed. Here's what's going to like, and I'm like literally wet knickers. Like it is just the best
Wet knickers.
feeling.
That's going to be the title of this episode.
Wet knickers.
I always say it's a panty dropper. So similar.
It's the Australian version, right?
I
Wet
love
knickers.
that. Oh my God,
Yeah.
it's so funny. So you meet, I want to know when this guy, quote unquote, forced you into your feminine, tell me some practical examples of what that actually looked like in your dating life.
Okay, I've never even shared this. I love this question.
Ooh.
So so I have like one vivid memory, for example, where he pushed me up against a wall, and I just saying it right now, I'm like, oh, don't you just love that, right? And I just remember being like so turned on, like so like because when you feel as a woman like he is in a healthy, sexy way, just like putting you into that surrender, which some of us, high achieving, kind of leading women, we really deeply crave of like that forcing into the feminine because we don't even have to like do it for ourselves. So, I was deeply craving that. And so he kind of, put me against a wall and just started making out with me. And I remember feeling like so turned on, so soft, so like that exhale in my body. But then my head, like, this is so wrong. Like, get off me. You shouldn't do this. Like, this isn't, because it was like, oh, I'm giving up my power. And that was really the conditioning of like, if a man is holding open the door or doing something for you or leading, that I'm giving up my power. Other things would even be like so I was living in Melbourne at the time. He was living in Sydney. And, I'd fly to Sydney, for example, and he'd pick me up with like flowers and all that. And I would always be like, when's the other shoe gonna drop? Like, even just that, like, what does he want? Like, why is he giving me flowers? Like, the inability to receive. I know so many women struggle with that, right? Where, even if someone wants to give you help, it's like, well, what do I have to do in return? They can't just receive it. Or even, somebody compliments you, you have to just compliment them back, even if you don't even like their outfit, instead of just being like, thank you.
Right.
And
it's like transactional as opposed to
actually receiving
receptive.
the experience. Yeah. So like, him bringing me flowers, other little things like him just planning the date. I'd rock up to Sydney for the weekend. He'd plan out the weekend. And I remember there being times where I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. So like, I should just then be like, no, this is what I want to do. This is what we're going to do. Like, what I want matters more. And it's not to say you don't speak your truth, because there's a phrase that I created called empoweredly submissive, which really is that the women that can truly be the most receptive and submissive in a healthy way are actually the most empowered. Because in order for you to be truly in that surrendered state, you have to feel so safe to say no. You have to have that open throat chakra to put your foot down when you need to, blah, blah, blah. But most of the time we just don't want to, because it feels so nice when someone else takes the lead. But, back then I just thought, no, doing what a man has planned and me not getting a say or me not having a say, like that is wrong. Versus, there's two sides to this. Obviously, one, if I didn't want to do that, I'm allowed to say I don't want to do that. But then the other side of it is like remembering, well, you don't always get what you want, Monica, right? And I think sometimes, especially these days with all of the female empowerment, it's like, well, my needs matter more. And we forget men want to feel safe too in relationships. Yeah. Men want to feel heard. Men want to feel listened to. They want to feel seen. And like, even now to this day, it's like, it's not all about me. Mm-hmm. If my husband, if he wants to do something and I don't want to, I'm going to be like, let's go do it. Because that's just the give and take of a relationship. It's not just about us. And I think that back then, and I've noticed it even now with clients, and I remind them, and it's like, oh God, they're like, oh, triggered, but this is actually so true and this is so me. It's like we get so into this female empowerment and like, well, my needs matter and I got to speak my truth, that it can get misinterpreted for us forgetting there are two people in a relationship and there is that give and take. And sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do.
Yeah. And we actually can find pleasure
Yeah.
in anything. Like the
I love
truth
that.
is that
Yeah.
even when you don't want to do it, if we just also open to the experience, 99% of the time we can just have fun.
Wait, can you give an example that you, for like recently for you, like what's
Yeah,
something tangible where
my
you didn't want to
husband's
do
obsessed with soccer, and
Okay, so already I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, 100%. And we are seasons tickets holders to Inter Miami, our local soccer team with like Messi. It's like a big deal.
Yeah.
For some people.
For some people, yeah, not for us, not for the listeners.
Super not interested in soccer. However, once a season, I go to the game and I pick my outfit and I wear the pink and black. Luckily, they have great colors. So it's like pink, white, and black.
Okay.
Their logo is super cute.
Yeah,
the whole thing. I have a hat. I have my he even bought me Inter Miami Adidas. Like shoes. Like it's a whole thing.
Okay.
I plan my outfit. We go. I make it like my sporty spice night and like
love it.
And then I make him go home at halftime.
Yeah.
But
I love that. Like you've made fun out of something.
Babe. And then I ask him all sorts of questions. I have a lot of commentary. He thinks it's hysterical because he's just like the things you notice about these players that have nothing to do with the game. It's like absolutely ridiculous.
This is like women watching sports. This would be me. This would totally be me.
And like shout out, listen, I have girlfriends who are actually like diehard sports fans, and that's wonderful. I'm just not like that. No. And so, I don't know, but I also want to be enthusiastic about what he's enthusiastic about, because what I'm excited about is a lit up man.
Yeah.
And like, I want him to have lots going on beyond our marriage. Yes. And so I want to support that and be enthusiastic about it. I just don't go most of the time.
Yes.
But I go
I love
once
that. No,
a season.
we need I think sometimes people forget that, you know, even though, yes, you're together in a relationship, I'm really big on your independence. Actually can help make the relationship. So like supporting your man to go and do the things that he likes to do or do the things alone can literally like improve your sex life.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
No, it's so much more interesting that he's like up to all these things and has all these
when you
friends.
work together.
Especially because we work together. Yeah, we're like quite in it.
Yeah.
So I want to know so you and I have many things in common. So the period thing, becoming obsessed with periods, number one. Yeah. Number two.
Your girls are lucky. Or maybe they're not, depending on them.
Depending.
They might not
quite
think
frankly,
they're lucky.
like my mom actually taught me a lot about menstrual wisdom and the period.
Course,
and I was super not interested.
Yeah,
so, you know, my girls will be who my girls will be. So the other thing we have in common is that we didn't realize, like, when you don't grow up in an environment that's explicitly traumatic with like abuse or substances or giant loss, there can be this feeling of like, yeah, my childhood was like pretty good. I must not have any trauma. Yep. And I was reading about that with you, and I wanted to dig deeper because it was also later in my life that I realized actually my nervous system was pretty jacked up.
Yeah.
And we, especially in times of the internet, social media, we really love to like play the trauma Olympics of like whose is worse and mine isn't enough, but it's like literally helps nobody. Yep. So can you talk about how you realized that actually you did have some nervous system healing to do?
Yeah. One of the really big eye-opening moments was after I had a really bad ski accident and I was in a wheelchair and we were my family was still skiing. They were like, oh, do you want to go home to Australia? And I was like, I do not want to go back to the summer, like with this like big leg brace on. Anyway, so they were skiing and I was just, mum left me for like an hour or something in the hotel lobby and I was in my wheelchair and then I was trying to get to the bathroom and I was struggling. And this lady came up to me and she's like, can I help you? And so she helped me get to the bathroom and then we were talking afterwards and I told her about the accident and what had just happened. And she was then telling me about her husband that was basically about to die and she has 2 little boys. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have no reason to be complaining right now. I'm so sorry. And she said to me, and I will never forget this, she said to me, you have every reason to complain because you've had a change in your reality. And that for me, and I have goosebumps, that like I share that story often because of what you said of so many of us that grew up in this quote unquote perfect childhood, we can feel like that kind of programming of I have nothing to complain about because somebody else has it worse. And yeah, maybe, you know, somebody else has it worse, but all you're then doing is gaslighting yourself, right? And when you understand that trauma is subjective, and trauma isn't about what, when you look back on your childhood, you might think, I had a perfect childhood. But that's not what you're looking at. It's about how you felt as a little girl or as a little boy in that instance. And your parents might not have actually been meaning to make you feel unsafe or unloved or unworthy or whatever, but you perceived that. And that perception is then what becomes the trauma. And understanding that trauma is subjective is really important because two people could have the identical situation happen to them, and one person finds that really traumatic and it affects them for the rest of their life. And another person, they didn't really perceive it as that traumatic, so it doesn't affect them. And I think for a lot of people, we can be looking at things from this like outside adult perspective, but we understand perspective. A child version of us doesn't understand perspective. And I was at a Tony Robbins event long time ago, like maybe it was like probably 2016, when I met the same guy. That's where I met him. And I remember saying to my mom, which is so fucked up, I said this to her, I said, I wish you gave me a harder childhood, because then I would have this like, poor girl to hero story. And I really thought back then that the only way for me to help people, because I always knew I wanted to help people. I always kind of had that. My name actually means to advise and counsel. Like I always had that in me. And I thought though, like, oh, well, if I want to be like Oprah or Tony Robbins or anybody that's helped people, they've all had these like horrific stories that they've come from and then made this name for themselves. And it's kind of like, going off what you said with the social media thing, it's like, do we idolize a little bit of like, do we idolize trauma? Do we idolize
it's like trauma porn?
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that phrase. Like, do we idolize a harder upbringing because then it gives us permission to have a bigger life, do more healing, blah, blah, blah.
And what I'm sure you know, but I do want to highlight is that there's our personal traumas, but there's also our ancestral and our collective traumas.
Yeah.
And our bodies are carrying those around just as much as our personal. And I love what you said about perspective. And the truth is, so many of the things that our nervous systems are carrying happened in childhood, and children don't have that perspective. And no one else can be the arbiter of, what it possibly could be for us. And I will say that by gaslighting ourselves, like you mentioned, and saying like, oh, that's not bad enough to count, we aren't doing our healing work. So it keeps us stuck in those patterns, which helps literally nobody, actually the opposite.
Yep.
It only makes us to act out in unconscious ways.
Yep.
So it helps nobody, and it keeps us from actually doing the healing work. And then it also, as you are pointing out, glamorizes and romanticizes it was so terrible and then it was amazing. And then it also deepens the lie that suffering makes us more valuable. And then we manufacture suffering in any opportunity we can find unconsciously.
Right. And also, I didn't mention this before, but I call it the micro trauma, right? So the feelings of like not feeling enough, feeling like, oh, I have to get grade A's all the time in order to be loved, like those little micro traumas that a lot of us have experienced, especially if you grew up in the quote unquote perfect childhood. What I've actually noticed in my clients is often those people, they actually have more healing to do because they've been more unconscious about how those things affect them. So then, when they're 16, 17, 25 years old, etc., but they keep attracting in these unconscious, situations. They keep attracting things in unconsciously, which then continues to exacerbate the trauma. It makes that kind of feeling of I'm not enough become bigger and bigger and bigger, where then they come to me at 35 or 40, and it wasn't even like the childhood stuff was actually quote unquote that bad. It's all of these other adult situations that have then become so traumatic as a result of that. Even the other day I was on a consultation call, and this woman, she said to me, I don't really need a therapist. Like I'm a very positive person, so like I don't need help with those things. But just before, she'd also told me, I don't feel like I'm enough. I always wonder why to my boyfriend, like, why is he with me? Like, what do I have to offer? She doesn't feel safe to be seen, especially in the workplace. Like she doesn't feel like she's kind of bold enough and strong enough, if you will, and a few other things. And I'm like, it was interesting how again, like it was that gaslighting of like, well, I'm positive, so I don't have any healing to do. And I think sometimes that, we cannot give ourselves permission to do the work in any capacity, whether it's money work, whether it's trauma work, whatever it is, because we think, well, I'm not in this deep, dark hole. And why do we have to wait until we're in this deep, dark hole to give ourselves permission to do any work? I think that it's a beautiful place to also be in when you're like, life's actually really good, but I just want more for myself. But a lot of women don't give themselves permission for that. And even with the money stuff, I feel like that's a classic case. Well, I have enough money, so I shouldn't be asking for any more. I'm sure you see that all the time.
All the time.
And it's that permission piece as women. Like we aren't given and we aren't giving ourselves the permission to be happier, to have a better life, to want more, to make more money, etc.
It's so true. I've seen you talk about being a breadwinner and how that can affect the polarity in our relationships. And I'm wondering if you can speak to, I work with a lot of women who maybe run a business and have become the person who's more financially responsible. Maybe they're not the 100% the breadwinner. And there was a time where my mastermind was completely by accident, pretty much exclusively women who made all the money in their marriage. And for some, that was to the detriment of their marriage. For some, it wasn't. But there were, a number of things that could come up. And I have shared on the podcast my own journey around this as the face of our brand. I can get into I would say my lower expression self has historically, they've done a lot of work around this, but has historically gotten into, especially when you may not know this part of my story, but Mike was really sick for a time off and on. And so he really wasn't able to work. And I was deep in my shit about, I'm the primary breadwinner and the primary parent, right? It was very martyry.
But also I just want to say, it's hard being the breadwinner. Even though I talk about it and we'll get into this, never in the history of women have we ever made so much money, had so much on our shoulders. And so when I talk about this, I love to just remind women, especially when they're asking me, it's hard, right? I'm not sitting here being oh, it's so easy being the breadwinner. I've figured out how to make it shitloads easier. And I'm sure you have too, right? But it requires work. Because it's not like many of us have had parents that were in this dynamic where we then knew it was modeled to us in a healthy way.
Yes, definitely not. I did grow up with a mother who made a lot of money.
Okay.
And sometimes it was modeled in a healthy way and sometimes not. It's just a variety. So I'm curious, for context, you work with your husband.
Yes.
Yes. And in what capacity?
Yeah. So
tell me your constellation.
So I started the business. Well, I started the business a long time before it actually, was making any money, but it was not an overnight success for anybody wondering.
That.
Yeah. Because I really I sometimes like to clarify that it really was not. It took me 4 years to get to a point where I was oh, I'm making enough money to be able to live off this. It started as a food blog. It did. I did not wake up one morning going, oh, this is my purpose. Didn't happen for me. Anyway, so when I met Hal back in 2022, I had already made, I was already making 7 figures a year. I had a very well built out business, very sustainable. I'd been doing it for a long time. And so, the business started making a lot of money in 2018, a lot in 2019, and then it just kind of scaled from there. And so by the time I met him, to give some context, when we met, he thought I was daddy's money. He didn't, he was very, very new to this world. And so he had no idea. So anyway.
A lot of people don't even know our world exists.
No, they don't.
It's wait, what?
Yeah. When he saw my apartment in New York, he was so worried that I was just basically going bankrupt and just having all this debt. I had to be this is my bank account for him to be oh, okay, everything is okay.
She's not completely delusional.
Exactly. He really thought I was. And I'm fair enough, right? Anyway. And so he then started working for me. Oh gosh, it's been maybe 2 years now. And, in the beginning there's multiple dynamics here, right? He works for me and I am the breadwinner and it's my business pays him, right? It's not just oh, I'm the breadwinner, but he works somewhere else. In the beginning, it was really hard, to be honest, because, I had already created this really successful business. I didn't trust him in the business because like the trust was built and he had no idea this world existed. He, it wasn't like he was running his own business, so he understood all the entrepreneur stuff. And also like, yeah, it was hard to let go of control because this is my baby. Like I know what my audience needs. I know what is right. And he's coming in with this man brain, which can sometimes be hard. Now I am like, even just on the way here, I'm like, my God, I could not do this without him, right? Like I love working together now. I'm so, so, so grateful for it because it's also allowed me to be more in my feminine, yes, in work, but also outside of work, which has been really great. But in terms of like the breadwinner dynamic, so yeah, he, we say that we, depending on the context, we either work together or he works for me kind of thing. But I mean, technically by paper, he works for me, but we don't treat it like that, especially with where we are now and where we have been for at least the last kind of, year and a half in business. The support that he brings, the ideas that he brings, like I am so grateful to have like us women on the team will always just be like, oh, thank God for the men, because we can all really appreciate what the men bring. And just like, I could never have an all-female team, let me just say it like that, because I just love the groundedness that he's able to bring.
I so feel that.
Yeah.
I have had an all-female team at times because Mike he's from day one, he started helping me build like in 2011.
Yeah, wow.
So it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But then he was doing some other things, and then I basically unconsciously took a torch to the whole business and was like, "Oops, I burned it down.
Please save me."
I super created a damsel in distress moment so he could come in and save me, because I was like, I guess it would have been so much healthier to be like, hey, babe, can you come back and run this company with me?
Hindsight's 20/20.
But instead,
whatever.
I created a lot of drama and chaos so that he could come in and white knight it. And he totally nailed it. So I really feel that like that foundation, also the straightforwardness. I love just the straight shooter. Like Mike and I are running.
Points.
Yeah, that's it. We're running a mentorship together, like a mastermind mentorship together, which we've never done before.
Well, that's fun.
It's
I wonder how that's going.
Fun.
Yeah.
Well, we just started, but I'll just tell you, like even having him, and there's one guy so far in the program also as a participant.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa, just how much less they talk.
Oh, I know. They can get the same point out in half the amount of time.
Oh, this is efficient. So yeah, like deep bow to men, love them.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a chapter in your book where you talk about like where have the masculine men gone and like what is, so my mother has this phrase, which is probably not PC, but
I mean, this episode is not, you brought an Australian on. Like if the Australian is coming on,
I love it.
It cannot, like it's R-rated.
We don't do PC. So my mom refers to sort of like the airy fairy, like deep in their feelings men as what does she call them? 2-pound frizzies. I literally have no idea where that
Okay, so it's like the whole like soft boy thing. Or what do they call them? Like soy boys.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Yeah, people say soy boys. I say soft boy.
Okay.
Just like it's like the dead fish handshake. You know, when someone gives me a dead, and I'm like, I immediately hate you.
Limp energy, like floppy.
Yeah, really gross.
Floppy.
Really gross. No wet knickers.
Yeah,
zero wet knickers.
It's not a panty dropper. So I want to know, what, in your perspective, what happened? Now, listen, it's great. Like men can be more in their feminine, women can be more in their masculine. I was hanging with a woman the other night who is firmly in her masculine. She is consciously with a man who is more strong in his feminine. That works great for them because it is that is who they are and they're expressing their innate selves. And so that's perfect.
Beautiful.
For those of us who are really craving the like, thank you for having me sort of feeling like we like being directed. Like, tell me what to do.
Yeah, literally.
What has happened with men?
Yeah.
In your opinion?
Okay.
Because you also do work with men.
Yes,
which
I do.
is unusual
Correct.
for, I just find that's unusual for women
and
in
I love it.
women in our
They're
space.
so straightforward, right? Where I give them the homework and they're like, oh, done. Like they do it. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like they actually just do it, you know? Anyway.
And don't have to leave you 35 boxers about their feelings about it.
There's no Voxes. Like, I don't get the messages. I'm like, hey, checking in. No, nothing. Crickets. I'm like, all right. Like, anyway. But I love working with women, right? Because it's just it's a completely different experience. Totally different. So yeah, what's happened with men? I think there's multiple layers of it. But one of the big things, and that I really address in my book, and you kind of mentioned it before, Kate, is that, there's been all these waves of feminism. And obviously the first, second, even kind of third wave of feminism important, right? Especially when it comes to the equal pay and our ability to vote. Like I'm not saying those things weren't important. What's then happened though is it's kind of become a manhunt, right? Feminism, we've gone so far from the definition of feminism. It originally was for all of us to feel equal. And now it's like, oh, women are basically better than men. That's what it's really become. And, then we obviously had the Me Too movement. Again, first wave of it, so important, right? So important. But then we had the second wave of it, and it was actually, there's quite a bit that I put in this book about it. There's been, many cases of women kind of abusing the Me Too movement, which is a real shame. And these men, they lose their whole lives, their whole reputation. They can never get a job again. They can never get the respect again. And when, after the court case, when they actually realize, oh, the man is not guilty, or the woman finally goes, actually, I've made this whole thing up, because there are cases of that. Where is the public apology for the men? There is none. And, this isn't to say that there isn't, of course, the situations where men are abusive and blah, blah, blah. But I think we also forget as women that there are bad women in the world. There are abusive women in the world. Even just on the note of sexual abuse. Do we ever talk about men's sexual abuse and how they also are in that? They are also
Certainly
in there.
Not enough.
We don't, right? You don't hear about it. You probably actually know some men that have had some kind of sexual abuse.
You definitely know some men who have been sexually abused.
Yeah, and that really affects them. And would they ever, feel comfortable talking about that? Most of the time, no. And not just because that's really hard for a man to talk about, taking that out of it, but because how many women would go, yeah, but you're not a woman. You don't know what it's like to be a woman and have this happen to you. And it's right. They don't know, but we don't know what it's like to be a man and have this happen to them. And so the second wave of the Me Too movement, what we've seen, and this is not just anecdotal research, this is hardcore research, is that men, they do not want to be put in work positions with women as their subordinates. So many men are now basically more than half of men in the workplace, they actually would rather not get the promotion or climb the corporate ladder if it risks a situation with a woman where she misunderstands what he says, his directness, his shortness, and that causes a HR nightmare. I did a survey for about 5 years with men, and they wrote in anonymously, and there's many stories in the book about with what they shared, just giving them a platform to be like, can you just share what it's like being a man? I have no information from you, right? I'm not going to track you down. I don't even know what your name is, kind of thing. Actually, I do know what the name is, but no last name, email address, that kind of thing. And, there are stories of men where they've been wrongly accused of something in the workplace. HR's even admitted, we know you didn't do this, but we cannot risk having a bold man like you in the workplace in this kind of climate. And I'm like, it's, many people have said this isn't just me. If you are a man in today's world, especially a white man, you are in the worst place to be in. And it just makes me sad, right? Because it's this whole point of feminism, the whole point of us fighting for all of this, it shouldn't have been just about us. It was meant for us to feel like equals. We got there, and now the pendulum has swung so far to the other side. And it's not to say we all need to go back to being housewives. My whole mission with the book is to give women the permission to be the woman they want to be, and to help women to realize that the way that we can make men feel safe to be the masculine man again, to hold open our doors and whatnot, is through us, right? I've realized that the way that we make men become men again is not me just talking to them. It's not me telling them this is how to be a masculine man, because that's all well and good, but they don't feel safe to be a masculine man. We have to do the work as women. We have to say thank you when a man holds open the door. When a man pushes the elevator to the side so we can get out first, we appreciate that versus saying, no, it's fine, you can go. Or when a man wants to put our bag in the overhead bins
Always
on the
say
airplane.
Yes.
Yeah. Even if you can do it yourself.
No, like I have amazing muscle mass and I always, I can definitely lift my suitcase, but like I'm always
of course you
saying
can lift your
yes,
suitcase,
it's the
right?
best.
And and the point
Thank
is
you for your help.
because the point
nice.
isn't to say, oh, I can do this. If you have two arms and you got yourself out of the house and onto that airplane,
Clearly,
everybody knows. Like you lifted the suitcase off the bed, right?
Yeah.
You can lift the suitcase. And when we as women are constantly trying to flex our, really what I say is like we're trying to flex our enoughness, that actually is showing how insecure you are in your womanhood, in your femininity, being a woman. And I say this because that was me. Back in the day, I didn't feel enough inherently as a woman. I thought the only way to really be like enough in today's world is to basically be a man. So what did I do? I would prove that I could do everything that a man could do. Excuse me. Now, I don't need to prove that. Now I'm insulted, especially being pregnant. Now I'm insulted when, a man just walks through the door in front of me. I'm like, seriously, dude? Yeah. Right? But it's hard because
I am repopulating the planet here.
but it's hard, Kate, because I was recently on a plane ride and I was really struggling to get my bag up. When people are like, they've got like dumb shit in the overhead lockers where I'm like, this could go under the seat and you still wouldn't even know it's there, right? Yeah. Anyway. And I couldn't get my bag up and nobody was helping me and I was getting all hot. And the only woman that was about to help me had a broken arm. Oh. And of course, there's all these men around and they weren't helping. And these two men then came up to me afterwards when I was waiting for my bag at the like circle thingy at the end. And they were like, hey, we just wanted to say we're really sorry for not coming up to help you. And I was like, it's okay. You probably didn't know whether I was going to accept the help or not. And they were like, honestly, that's exactly what it was. We were like, do we go up to her? Do we ask? Do we try to help her or do we not? Because we had like a full-on conversation and they basically shared, I've been in situations before where I go and help a woman and my balls get chopped off.
It. Yeah.
And so it's like, it's that whole thing of like, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. Men don't know what they're allowed to do anymore. And that's why I say we as women need to be the ones to let them lead. We need to ask sometimes. We need to give them that permission. And then when they do it, we need to deeply, deeply appreciate it. And like, I'm that chick that's like even today, when I was at a restaurant, this guy made a joke about me being pregnant, like not in a mean way, in a nice way, like, oh, yep, she has to pay the bill because she ate it all. And and he was like, oh, I didn't mean to insult you. I was like, no, you didn't insult me. Like, and then he said, congratulations or whatever. And I was like, thank you for just saying that because I can't tell you how many people even, they look at me, but they don't say anything. And I'm like, I'm pregnant. Like, you're not going to say the wrong thing. But, so many people are like, oh, don't know whether I can say, don't know whether I'm going to insult her. We're all so afraid. This guy was European. So he was like, in Europe, we just say what we want to say, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's why we all love Europe.
Well, it's the beautiful thing about Miami, I have to say. It's like a very un-PC place because it's so multicultural.
Yeah, okay.
We're not all playing by the same rules, and it's actually quite refreshing.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Have
well,
to
that's
say.
why I love living in Atlanta because the amount of times I'm at Home Depot trying to pick up this soil, like you're not pregnant, trying to pick up this soil in the back of the car because I have my whole like veggie patch obsession. And we were like early into living there, and this guy, like not in a sexual way, he was like maybe 60, right? He's like yelling at me from 3 rows over. And initially I'm like, what does this guy want? Like, why is he yelling at me? You know what he was doing? He was telling me to stop lifting the soil so he could come over and lift the soil for me. And, it's just, we talked about this kind of at the beginning. We don't receive. We don't know how to ask for help. We don't know how to just say thank you. And I believe that it's gotten to this point because of this like overactive radical feminism and the female empowerment that's gone too far, essentially, where we women, it's a combination. We either think we're better than men, or for a lot of us, we think that we are so much worse than men, that we have to be men in order to feel worthy as women, rather than actually realizing the beauty and the privilege and the worth that we have inherently as women. And so whilst we can pick our own bags up, I don't want to. Yeah. I don't need to prove it to anybody. Right. So yeah.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
I do want to circle back because I realized like we got into your situation with breadwinning, but I did want to ask you for those who are in a situation where they are finding that their non-traditional dynamic where the woman is making all or more than, where that is affecting their polarity. What are your recommendations in that scenario?
My first recommendation would honestly be heal your relationship with money. So go to Kate for that.
Great. You're in the right place if you're listening to Plenty.
Yeah. Right. Heal your relationship with money. And I say that because obviously we all know that if we have a really messed up relationship with money, then this situation is going to be 10 times harder because we're not going to feel like, oh, it's just going to keep flowing. We're not going to be
because
in this,
it's rooted in scarcity.
Right. Exactly. We're in this like scarcity, tense energy in our body. So that would be number one. Number two is you need to redefine what it means for him to be the provider and the protector, right? There is back in the day, the way that he was the provider and the protector was what he brought home from the workday, but that's actually not the case anymore, which is a beautiful thing. And I give the example of like, you know, you could be with a man that's making millions more than you and like he's flying you around the world, blah, blah, blah. But if you do not feel like he has got your back, if you do not feel protected by him, if he's not sending you the text being like, send me the Uber driver's name so I can track your status. Like, I love it when I'm like away from Hal and if my location is off for some reason, he'll be like, your location's off, turn your location on. I'm like, yes, track me, babe. Like, I want that. You know, like just even as like a little example, there's so many ways that they can provide and protect that's irrelevant to money. So one, you need to know that for yourself and your particular relationship. Other thing that I would say kind of a little bit on this note is that a lot of us have devalued the feminine qualities. We've devalued the more traditional feminine tasks at home. And this is for women and men on this note. You know, we spend 2 hours doing the laundry and making dinner and tidying up the house and we think we've wasted our time. We've been unproductive. Oh my gosh, I didn't do these 3 hours of work I needed to do because I was doing all this laundry. And we've devalued what that brings to our family. And so even just starting to actually like, it can be helpful. I used to do this in the beginning. It could be helpful to put like a dollar value in your mind on the value of you folding your children's laundry or his laundry. And also then when he's folding your laundry for you, you actually are able to feel the value of that. Like I remember when Hal and I first started dating and he's like not into this stuff at all. And so he was very uncomfortable if I was like, oh, it's fine. Like I can pay for the hotel because like I want to take this hotel. And he didn't fully get it. He didn't get like the whole like, I need the vibes and the energy, like, you know, because to him it's like, if there's a bed, then we're fine, right?
Oh my God.
Absolutely
when Mike
not.
suggests to me that we stay in a residence inn with the kids, I'm like,
Hal's just stopped doing it now.
like, and now he does it as a joke, but I'm just like, babe,
yeah.
like such a hard no. Like such a hard no.
Oh my God. I just love it. I feel like they could have so much to bond about. Just like two men trying to deal with the women that want the vibes. Anyway. And so, when you were first started dating, I would share with him, like, just an FYI, like you booking the flight, sending me the details, like dealing with the bag, getting me in the Uber, like, and just telling me what to do and where to be. This is the value of that to me. And I would put a number on it. Yeah. So it would be helpful for me, but it would also be helpful for him to understand that, you know, that is how much I value these things. And I think for a lot of us women that are the breadwinners or are making just like a large amount of money, and even just, you know, if you're listening to this podcast, you're in this kind of group, you've probably done work around valuing the things that somebody else would be like, oh, I can just do that myself. It's a waste of money to have somebody else pay to do that, right? So we all can value, you know, somebody else doing our laundry for us. I think that can be a really, really helpful thing for us to do and also to then share with our partner. And then the other thing would be would be one more tip that I could give everybody. I mean, I would be let go of control.
Yes.
I would say that one. Like, and I know that's so much easier said than done, but you've got to remember that the need to control is an illusion of safety. Mm-hmm. When we feel like, oh, I'm in control and you then feel safe, that is an illusion of safety. It's not actual safety. True safety is your ability to let go and trust, right? Yep. And so working on your control issues and the trauma around that and why you actually feel the need to control in order to feel safe is really important. And I say that because, you know, you kind of elicited this before of like, we'll get into the whole kind of like the nuances of feminine energy, right? But I'm really big on now, it was different obviously when I first started my business because the world was kind of different. I've realized women now don't benefit from like, here's a list of feminine qualities, here's a list of masculine qualities. It puts us into overthinking.
Totally.
I have clients that are like, oh my God, I've been too my masculine all day because I've been directing and having discernment and I drew a few boundaries. And anyway, and so the control, you know, if you are, I give the example, if you're a Virgo, and you're like, oh, but I love planning the holidays and blah, 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 and that lights you up. Okay, well, that could technically then be you in your feminine, right? Even though, you know, you planning the holiday is technically a masculine thing. But if you planning the holiday is because you don't trust him to plan the holiday well enough, that is a trauma response.
Yeah.
Just to make that example of a nuance.
Perfect example.
Yeah, that is a trauma response. So like when I don't plan the holidays because I don't really want to plan the holidays. And the one time Hal let me pick the hotel, it of course was like the furthest, it was beautiful, right? Like if anyone, like it's in like the hills of the Italian Dolomites, blah, blah, blah. But of course he was like, it is 4 hours from the nearest fucking airport. Like, of course you picked this. Of course. The one time I let you pick it, it's like in the worst geographical location. It was beautiful once you were there, but we got there at like 4 a.m. Anyway, so he'll never let me go with that one. And after that, I was like, yeah, I fully trust you to just always plan the hotels because he thinks of things that I don't think of. I understand there are plenty of women who really get off to the planning of trips. And that can then be still you and your feminine. Just notice that difference though with the control.
And is it a feeling in our bodies when we're trying to be in control? How do we know? What's the sign?
Because you won't feel safe to let go.
Yeah.
Like your body, like somatically will not feel safe to be like, oh, okay, you plan it, right? And I want to say, if you're first dating this guy, so the trust is being built, it's going to be harder because the trust is being built. You're like, but do you know what I want? Blah, blah, blah. But then even still, how can the trust be built if you don't give him the opportunity to show you he knows what you want?
You'll love this. So when Mike and I first met platonically, and then like he did a lot of follow up. I was unclear if he was networking or pursuing me. Anyway,
Really not networking.
Clearly not. He was leaving long thought out comments on my blog back in 2010.
What a hot way for a man to be chasing you back then, right?
I was
on the
like,
blog.
I don't know what's going on. But anyway, due to my intuition, I quote unquote randomly invited him to drive across the country with me for 5 days.
Yeah.
Out of the blue, barely knew the man.
Okay.
And 24 hours later, he was like, I'm in. And also he emailed me a complete itinerary for the trip, including the items he needed me to bring, the items he would be bringing, and where we would be staying each night. Like he had already planned out the whole thing and mapped it out. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, like what do you do to that, right? You're like, oh, like your heart stops.
This is the greatest.
Yeah,
like
right.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my first signs, but still I thought that it was going to be a platonic relationship, which was hysterical. Anyway,
It's funny how so many women will be like that, right? Of like when I told my girlfriend, oh yeah, I'm going to Atlanta for a comedy show. She's like, hey, 1, Monica does not go to comedy shows. 2, Monica does not go to Atlanta. And I'm sitting there like, no, like, yeah, it's not a big deal. I just like met him skiing. Like, it's not a thing. She's like, oh yeah, it's not a thing. Yeah, it's a fucking thing.
Got to you pregnant.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Okay. As we kind of like round things out, I'm curious about your relationship with money. You know, my show's called Plenty, and it really is about tapping into our source of abundance. But it's also about money. Yeah. And I want to know, you know, you have been making a large amount of money for a young woman.
Yes.
And I want to know what edges, if any, you've come up against with that.
So around with specifically money or even just like outside of money?
Well, could be outside
linked.
of money.
Okay.
Could be around like visibility or just like success, quote unquote, whatever. But if there is anything where you've 100%. Had to grow and expand around money, I kind of want to know about it.
And the reason why I say that is because, I mean, I made my first $1 million in a year when I was 25 or 26. And that didn't cause me to lose a lot of friends. Starting my business caused me to lose a lot of friends and like quote unquote friends, right? And I mean, it didn't affect me. I've always been very kind of like, well, if you don't like me, like fuck it, right? I'm glad that I had that to lean on kind of thing. But I also noticed, especially this started when I was still living in Sydney, where people would treat me differently when they actually started to realize how much money I was making. I remember in 2019, I had like 40 or 50x'd it was like I went from making like $30,000 the previous year to making $600,000 the next year.
It's a dramatic leap.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
And so I remember people just starting to treat me differently and me just thinking like, why? I'm the same person. Like I acted no different. I didn't even like really started dressing differently, right? I was just like, my mom did say at one point, like, babe, now that you're making this money, maybe you can like throw out the fucking, the jumper, which is, what do you guys call a jumper? Like a
sweatshirt?
pullover, a sweatshirt that has like holes around the neckline. All right, fine. So I have to throw one out. But
okay, Mom.
Yeah. And so I did make sure I started investing more in my clothing. But that was a really big edge in the sisterhood wounding part of it. And I feel like a lot of women, that can hold them back. And even starting their business.
It is incredibly common.
Even as women being
what are people going to think?
I don't want people to see this on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want so-and-so or like a family member to see it on Instagram. And so that was a big edge that I had to come up across. I mean, I grew up with an intensely scarce relationship with money to the point, Kate, where when I was still living in Sydney, this would have been like 2018, I would not buy breakfast food because it was cheaper then. Because I would have to spend less on food each week, like an extremely scarce relationship.
So you would
with
just
money.
skip breakfast?
Skip breakfast. Not because I wanted to. I am like, breakfast is my favorite meal, right?
Okay.
We have like
but you were
full
like, if I
avocado
don't
eggs
eat
every morning.
a meal
it's cheaper
in the day, I will spend less money.
Correct.
Got it.
So I wouldn't buy breakfast food. And I didn't do that for too long, but it really, to me, it was like, oh, this is great. I'll then have more money kind of thing. So I had a really, really scarce relationship with money. And I can't even remember what what got me into money mindset back then. But when I started doing the money mindset work and reading some books and then getting into and investing in courses, it really just became so apparent to me that like this has just been handed to me, right?
Yeah.
My dad was very scarce with money because of his upbringing. I mean, they lost everything moving from the UK to Australia. Like they like came on a boat, like didn't even realize that, like came on a boat kind of thing. They lost everything. And so of course his relationship with money was really tight. But what was interesting, and I'm sure you've seen this case a lot, it wasn't that money was tight growing up. Like I went to a private school, my parents are still together, like we lived in New York and then Australia, we would travel every year, but it was just that programming of save, and don't spend. Because if you spend, then you have less. Right. And it wasn't until I understood the energetics of money and really like, oh, that money is an energy. It's not actually like a physical thing. Right? It is just an energy, and like the whole energy in motion, that was a really big thing for me of like the energy in motion. Then what I realized once I'd kind of healed that, I knew for me that what worked really well is I'm somebody that really feeds off environments. So I always had to be in like expansion. And so even during 2020, I was stuck in London then during COVID, and I wasn't going to just have like a 1-bedroom apartment for just me. What did I get? A townhouse with 3 bedrooms and a backyard, because I knew investing in that environment, the flow-on effect was going to be so big for me. And that's when I made my first $1 million that year. And it wasn't to say it was the house necessarily, but it's just like, I cannot tell you, and I know you talk about this. I think you did a reel on this the other day of like, one of the number one sources of stress and reasons for divorce is money, is stress around money. I think a lot of people, they don't invest their time, their money, their energy into healing their relationship with money, but they fail to realize the dramatic impact their relationship with money is having on every area of their life. I mean, to the point of like food, like what you're eating, to your like to health, to your sex life, to your relationships.
There's not an area it doesn't touch.
Everything. And so when I won't keep rambling, but it wasn't so much that I came up on that many edges. It was like I just realized that I always need to keep doing the money mindset work. I always say that to my clients of, we live in an economy, everybody around you is fucking scarce. Everybody, it's like, oh, this, that, the other on the news, like everybody's scared about money. And so it's one thing where it's like, don't stop doing the work on this. Whereas I really believe and I see with like feminine energy work, my whole like philosophy and how I built my whole business is you heal your trauma, you go in, you go deep, you rip the Band-Aid off. And then once you've pulled all the shit away, you don't have to go to a retreat every year and do 500 courses, because now you're just continuing to integrate, to embody, to like literally just like become her, like the book, heal, embody, radiate, right? You just keep going naturally becoming yourself. But I think with money, it's different. I think with money, you have to keep surrounding yourself with the positive messages around money, doing the journaling, doing the affirmations, doing all of that, because otherwise it'll like the scarcity will come back because of how bad our environment is.
Wow. It was just like a great commercial for my business. Keep coming back.
Yeah. We need Monica back on the podcast, right?
Thank you, Monica. It's so fun to get to know you.
Yeah, it's been
I'm
great.
excited to continue, offline.
Yeah.
If people want to connect with you, get your book,
Yes.
learn more, where should they go?
Website is the best place, monicayateshealth.com. The book is Becoming Her. I mean, it's an extension of a lot of what we've spoken about today. And for any women listening that really feel like they need a permission slip to be the woman they want to be. This isn't about, oh, you have to be a successful entrepreneur. If your dream is to have chickens and bake muffins all day, this book is going to serve you. This book, I wrote it so that women could feel like they could be their version of a woman, not, oh, we've been taken out of the housewife and now we all have to be the girl boss. Becoming
Amazing.
her.
Becoming Her.
Yeah.
Get your book. All the links will be in the show notes. And then you also have an amazing podcast.
Yes, and my podcast is Feminine as Fuck.
Amazing.
Easy to remember.
Yes, it is. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kate. This is great.
What if managing money felt effortless? You've worked so hard to earn money, so why does it feel stressful? Well, I want to introduce you to something brand new that I've created called the Money Reset, because abundance starts in your body, not in your bank account. This free audio experience will help you rewire your nervous system for wealth, stop the money in, money out cycle, and create a foundation for true wealth, and relax into a new relationship with money. Plus, it comes with the 5-minute calm cash flow ritual, so you can have financial clarity and magnetism anytime you want. All you need to do to get the free money reset is go to katenorthrup.com/reset.